Cuba will be at Margaret Hudson's Barn and Garden, 4247 North Thorn Avenue in Fresno, for a free public presentation about the current situation in Cuba and the purpose behind the caravan. Donations of medical supplies, building materials, and money are needed. For more information on donations, contact Jerry Bill at 227-2133 or Lenny Reeves at 855-4511. For details on materials needed, see the Fresno Center for Nonviolence website at centerfornonviolence.org. To submit your event to our calendar, email calendar@kfcf.org.
एक और जहां मुमकिन है, 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 जहां फसलें सबकी साझी हो, जहां खुशियां सबकी साझी हो.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Pakistan Behind the Headlines, a special broadcast on 88.1 KFCF Free Speech Radio for Central California. My name is Yaseen, and I'm a local peace and justice activist. My guest in the studio is Abdul Quayyum Khan Kundi, a writer, businessman, and member of Advisory Committee of Pakistan Tehreeke Insaf, or Pakistan Movement for Justice. Hello, Kundi.
Thank you, Dan, and I say Assalamu alaikum to all of your listeners, which mean peace be upon all of you.
Both Kundi and I are natives of Pakistan, and we feel that mainstream media in the US does a horrible job of covering Pakistan. In this show, we'll go behind the headlines and talk about the realities of the current situation in Pakistan and the US-Pakistani relations. Kundi has been a contributing columnist for leading Pakistani newspapers, the Frontier Post, the Daily Times, Daily Dawn, and Weekly Pakistan Chronicle. He has also written speeches and advised local politicians on election campaigns. His op-ed columns cover topics related to politics, social issues, and foreign policy. He is the author of recently published book Freedom by Choice. Kundi served as president of Pakistan Chamber of Commerce USA in 2010. He is the founder and chief executive officer of Get Tickets LLC and Interactive Ventures, companies that own and operate a network of over 200 websites. To keep people informed and educated on politics and social issues, Interactive Ventures launched GetPakistan.tv and DemocracyInPakistan.com. Kundi, thank you for agreeing to be my guest on the show.
Thank you, Dan.
The idea of the clash of civilization was advanced in the early 90s by conservative think tanks Samuel P. Huntington and Francis Fukuyama. The idea was adopted by the neo-conservative groups like PNAC, Project for New American Century. Their goal was to create a unipolar world with United States as the only world superpower. After 9/11, US launched a war on terror. Many people in Pakistan and other Islamic countries look at the war on terror as a war on Islam. Do you agree with that, Kundi?
I think this is a very pertinent question in today's times when we see turmoil all over the world, whether it's economic or military. And the way I see it, instead of having a clash of civilization, I feel there is a clash within secularism. Because when secularism gained prominence after the Second World War, its major conflict was with communism, which denied a role of religion in a society and professed a social system where the state owned all the resources. Now when that Cold War is over and secular West got engaged with the Muslim countries where religion plays a prominent role in daily lives of people, whether it's government or any other affair of the state. So when that a conflict started between secular West and Muslim countries, the paradox of the secularism, which is denying the faith of an individual to play a role in a state, came to the forefront. And now what we see here is that the secular West is struggling how to accommodate faith in their government. You know what we saw recently in Oslo, where a person killed 79 young people, bringing his faith to the forefront. And similar things we see when France denied a Muslim woman to wear a scarf, although that's a cultural choice people can make. And again in Sweden, when mosques were not allowed to have minarets built. Similarly in US in 2011 there were two major resistance to establishment of mosque, one in the 90 mosque and the other one is in Temecula. So these things suggest that there is a rising discontent in secular societies where people want to have more expression of faith. And actually if you look at America, America is really not a secular country, because everywhere we see in US we see expression of faith. For instance, when you take an oath of allegiance, the last phrase is one nation under God. And if you look at the currency, it says in God we trust. And again, when you go to war, your military has a chaplain in all military units, which means that religion plays a very dominant role in politics in US. So from that perspective, faith is present in a secular society, which shouldn't be, technically speaking. So from the theory of secularism, there is only one secular country in the world right now, which is China, which denies any role of religion in a state. So what I see coming is that for the first time in 200 years, there is a discontent among people about the current state of affairs, and this is around the globe. Democracy is under stress. We saw that in Italy. We saw recently that in France when Sarkozy was thrown out. We are seeing that in US when Occupy movement and the Tea Party movement is getting prominence and attracting larger and larger crowds. So I feel now that there will be a transition from current systems to new systems. Now historically, whenever there is a transition happens from one system to another, there is an emergence of violence, there is an emergence of anarchy. So my hope is that when we transition from secularism to a new system of social organization, it will be more peaceful, there will be more engagement. And that is my hope. So I don't see a clash of civilization. I see clash of systems and accommodation of new systems.
Okay, the notion that there is a war between Western world and the Muslim world has resulted in Islamophobia in some segments of the right-wing media and the US military. There has been many incidents in the US during the last couple of years. Can you talk about some of them?
Yeah, actually I think this is an interesting point. So whenever there is a hot pursuit, whenever there is a military prominence in resolving some political issue, as we say, war is another form of politics, in that situation phobias play an important role. In American history, we have seen many phobias. There was a Japanese phobia after Second World War. There was a Chinese phobia in the Korean War. There was a communist phobia in the Cold War. And now we have Islamophobia. But in last 1 year, that has changed. From 2001 to up to the beginning of 2011, whenever media talked about war or terrorism, they would label it as Islamist. But in 2011, I have noticed a change. Now whenever they talk about terrorism, they don't talk about Islam, which I think is a good development, and that gives me a hope that the wars will subside and we will enter a new era of peace. But phobia phobias have played a role in justifying wars, and I hope really, because Pakistan is directly affected from these wars, I hope that we'll be entering a new era of peace. And when President Obama was given a Nobel Peace Prize, that was my hope, which I'm still hoping, but I don't see any progress.
As a peace activist, I have wondered why so many Americans tolerate US NATO forces killing so many people in so many countries. My question to you is why some politicians and some pundits on the Pakistani media are willing to accept the same US NATO forces killing so many people in Afghanistan and in Pakistan also.
Well, if you look at the history of current US involvement in Afghanistan, it started right after 9/11, and Pakistan was not given a choice. It was a call made by by Rich Armitage and General Powell, and they just gave a list of things that they demanded from Pakistan. At that time, we had a military ruler who was looking for legitimacy. So basically, the decision that was taken at that time was not the decision of the people, but a decision of a person who, in my view, considers his own personal interest rather than the national interest of Pakistan. The history of US-Pakistan relations go far beyond Afghan war. Since Pakistan's creation, we have been very close to US, and we have worked very closely with US diplomacy throughout 65 years of our history. So basically, the error that was made, since there was not a representative government, I would say that the approach US adopted at that time, which should have been to initiate a strategic dialogue to find out common ground between the two nations and then embark on a journey, they imposed something on us, and which turned out to be a wrong decision, and in my view, and now it's has cost Pakistan and US both in terms of money and treasure, in terms of money and lives.
US and Pakistan have a sort of a transactional relationships. Whenever US needs Pakistan, the flow of economic and military aid increases, and when the need ceases to exist, the cash flow reduces to a trickle. In the mainstream media in US, we never hear about the price Pakistan has paid for being an ally of the US. Let's see how the last two major wars which Pakistan helped United States, how they have affected and the price that Pakistan has paid. The first is the Soviet war in Afghanistan, which started in 79 and lasted a little less than 10 years until 1989, and Pakistan was used by the United States to supply the Mujahideen who were fighting the Soviet army.
You have raised a pertinent point, and Pakistan has suffered considerably in terms of social decay because of their involvement in the first Afghan war when Soviet forces occupied Afghanistan. But I want to talk more of the current situation, just to give you a perspective. And these numbers are not basically promoted or presented by Pakistan. Brown University of USA recently conducted a research, and according to them, the recent wars have cost 225,000 lives, 8 million displaced, and $4 trillion to the US economy. Your current budget deficit, your current borrowing is $13 trillion, around $13 trillion, and $4 trillion of that borrowed money has been spent on wars. So these are your own universities giving out these numbers. What Pakistan has suffered is much more than that. We are not as strong as America. We were a rising low income country, and we were embarking on a journey where we were expecting to get into the emerging developing countries. But in the last 10 years, we have gone backwards. Let me give you an idea. In last 10 years, we have lost 40,000 people to terrorism and other acts of violence, and it has cost Pakistani economy around $70 billion. And I have traveled all over Pakistan, and I can tell you that the NATO supplies that have been routed through Pakistani roads have damaged the roads so badly that it would cost Pakistani people around $100 billion just to repair those roads. Not to add new roads which we need to have more farm to market roads, but just to repair the existing roads it will cost us over 100 billion rupees. And now, instead of realizing the sacrifices of the Pakistani people, what we hear from our friends and our allies is that Pakistan is not doing enough and Pakistan is doing double cross or this or that. I don't know what leaders are thinking, but I can tell you what Pakistani people have suffered, and they have spoken with their blood and their hard-earned money. And I think this should be realized, this should be appreciated, and this should be brought to the front in American media, so that people really understand how much Pakistan has contributed to this war on terror.
Okay, you did cover overall both the wars, that in general how it has damaged Pakistan, and Pakistan is still hurting. And looking at a broader perspective, there is a shift in geopolitical interest of United States. It has already disengaged in Iraq, and it is moving beyond Afghanistan. Containment of China is gaining more importance in US outlook, and Pakistan has no role to play in containment of China because of the long-term relationship Pakistan had with China. What is your view in this regard, where US is headed?
Okay, here's one thing I want to say to the people of US, that Pakistanis understand that as a global power, America has interest in all regions of the world. We understand that. And we also understand that South Asia, and in a recently published book, Strategic Vision by Leonid Brzezinski, the former National Security Advisor of President Carter, he has said that Eurasia is the place where the next action is, where the most US interest is Eurasia, which is the current day Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, and Central Asia. So we understand that America has, as a global power, has interest in South Asia. But there are two ways you can safeguard your interests. One is that you want to impose your will and contain the regional powers, or you can create harmony of strategic interest, or engaging on creating a platform where the regional interest is aligned with the American interest, so that everybody benefits and the region develops. What I have seen in the last 10 years is that the strategic interest of US in South Asia is being driven by soldiers rather than by diplomats. So what I would like to see is that the diplomats come back to the forefront and take the lead in creating an understanding and creating a strategic dialogue with the regional players, so that we can attain peace as well as secure the interest of various powers in that area. Let me give you another interesting perspective to that. Recently, America is suggesting that India has a role to play in Afghanistan, which I am sure India also wants to play. But there is one thing that Indians have to understand, is that in the 5,000 history of India, most of the occupiers of India have come through Afghanistan. Whether it was Alexander the Great, Mahmud Ghaznavi, Mughal Emperor Babur, or Timur Lan, all of them came through the route of Afghanistan. What it means for India is that if Pakistan was not there as a buffer state to face all the heat, the extremists would be knocking the doors in Delhi right now. So basically, Indians should be thankful to Pakistan that Pakistan is bearing the brunt of the turmoil in South Asia, while India is focusing on its economic development and resolving social issues. So India, instead of going counter to the interest of Pakistan, should align its interest with Pakistan, work with Pakistan as an elder brother, as a regional a major player, and work with Pakistan for the mutual benefit and mutual understanding, and bringing the peace back to South Asia.
You are listening to a special broadcast, Pakistan Behind the Headlines, on 88.1 KFCF Free Speech Radio for Central California. My name is Dan Yaseen, and I have Abdul Quayyum Khan Kundi, a writer, businessman, and a political advisor in studio with me. Pakistan always seems to be in crisis, one after the other. Present circumstance is no exception. Before we talk about the current problems and their solutions, let's mention a couple of good news that are happening in Pakistan. Despite the current turmoil and crises, army has decided to stay in the barracks, and an elected government that was elected 4 years ago is about to complete its full term. There has no coup, maybe no coup, and no disturbance. So the elections are expected in few months. What do you have to say about that positive development?
Yeah, I agree with you, Dan, that I see a lot of positives happening in Pakistan. We have a vibrant media, we have independent judiciary, which is, some people say, rather too independent, and we have political parties now that are reforming to include more democratic values in their structure. And so I am very hopeful, and I say to people that for the last 60 years we have been putting every bad thing under the rug, and now we have removed the rug and the rug, and we are trying to clean that all the mess that we had under the rug. So I see a lot of positive development, and some people laugh at me sometimes when I say I don't see any risk of disintegration of Pakistan. I think people of Pakistan realize that staying together and working together is in their mutual interest. So I see a lot of hope, and I see a lot of positive things happening, especially youth of Pakistan. 65% of Pakistan is in the age of 35. And this youthful Pakistan wants to see a new Pakistan emerging. So whatever is happening right now, and even my own party is riding that wave of popularity on the back of this youth activism. So I'm very hopeful for the future of Pakistan.
Kundi, I would like you to give our audience a review of the political landscape of Pakistan. How many parties are there? Which one are the major parties? Just give us a...
Okay, I'll be a little biased here because I am with Pakistan Tehreeke Insaf, so my sympathies and my hopes and ambitions are all associated with that party. So I don't know how much I can praise the other parties, but I will try my level. But actually, the book that I've recently published, Freedom by Choice, gives a very detailed perspective of Pakistan's political landscape. So since Pakistan has not experienced long period of democratic governments, and since establishment has played a role of pulling the strings from behind the curtain, the culture has not developed. The culture of democracy has not developed. Now we are hopeful that this democratically elected government is completing its term, and this will be a new landmark for Pakistan that we'll cross, and we feel that democratic values will gain more strength in the country. There are two major parties which we call status quo parties, which is Pakistan People's Party and Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz. And now Pakistan Tehreeke Insaf is a third emerging force. And our strength, as I said before, is being derived from middle class, the rising middle class in the urban centers, and youth of Pakistan. So these are the three parties, and then we have many regional parties. And because of the presence of these regional parties, we have had coalition governments. And I hope that people of Pakistan will realize that unless there is a strong government in the center, it will not be able to embark on its agenda of, especially PTI. We feel that if we are not in substantial numbers in the parliament, and if we have to form a coalition government, our ability to bring reforms to Pakistan will be limited by our coalition partners, because then we have to include their interest in the reform agenda. So we feel, and I would request whoever Pakistani Americans are listening to this program, is that for PTI to be able to embark on its agenda of reform, we need substantial numbers in the parliament. And that can only happen when we get not only the financial support from Pakistanis, overseas Pakistanis, and also votes from the Pakistani registered voters.
Well, tell us about your chairman, Imran Khan.
I don't know what to tell you about him, because I would need at least a few hours to fully elaborate on his achievements. He is a kind of an iconic figure in Pakistan. He was a cricketer, a famous sports in Pakistan, and he was the captain when Pakistan became the world champions in cricket. And even that tournament we won against all odds. Nobody gave us any chance, or nobody considered us a favorite for the cup, but we did it, and it is attributed to his captaincy, his leadership. And then after he achieved that milestone, he embarked on new journeys, and then he started a cancer hospital that has become one of the largest private cancer hospitals, funded by donations, where cancer research is done as well as cancer treatment for poor. And then people would think that this is enough for a person to do in a lifetime. He embarked on a third journey, and he decided to create an education center in a very far off place, where and I've seen that university is called Namal University, and just constructing that college, I think, is amazing. It's a miracle, because they had to cut the mountain, and road access was not available. So now he wants to convert it into a knowledge center. And then in 1997 he started, he felt, what I have heard from him is that doing charitable causes may have an effect at a particular segment of the society, but to change the whole society you have to get engaged in politics. So he started this political party called Pakistan Tehreeke Insaf, and again, like his other ventures, nobody gave him any chance. That nobody thought that he could be a force in politics, but once again he proved everybody wrong, and now PTI is one of the most popular party. Just 2 days ago there was a Pew survey released in Pakistan, in which they said that Imran Khan is the most popular leader in Pakistan. 70% of Pakistanis think that he's the leader that should lead them, and that is all because of his charismatic personality, his unbound energy, and his ability to keep going against all odds. So I think all of us who are engaged with PTI, we are all impressed with his never say die attitude.
Well, I guess the way you described it answers the another thing that you had talked about earlier, why he's so popular among the younger generation. And why do you believe that the young generation, which I have some numbers like 47% of the registered voters are between 18 and 35? So why is he so popular among the young generation, and what role the young generation will play in the future of Pakistan?
I think an American shouldn't ask this question. You know why? Because Ron Paul is 74 and he's the most popular candidate among young, and Imran is only 59. So what I think is that whenever in societies, in societies where reform has been introduced, the driving force is always youth. All revolutions, youth are at the forefront. Also in reforms, youth are always at the forefront of reform, all reform movements. And since Ron Paul wants to reform US society, and he's not happy with the status quo, same as in Pakistan, Imran Khan is a leader of reform. He wants to reform the society. He wants to give a new vision of Pakistan. And this is what youth wants, because youth are fully disgruntled with the status quo, and they have given chances to the current two parties, People's Party and Nawaz PMLN, and they have not lived up to their expectations. So now they want to give an opportunity to PTI and Imran Khan and his team to bring reforms to Pakistan. And if we fail, I think that will be that will create a situation that will not be possible to overcome for another 20-30 years. So it is very important that PTI and his team has to live up to the expectation of youth. Inshallah, when they come to the parliament, they have to live up to that expectation and bring reforms to the country.
Let's talk about some of the current major problems in Pakistan and how PTI would solve them. First major problem that I see is the law and order situation. Suicide bombing, sectarian violence, extortion rackets, targeted assassination, and kidnappings for ransom happen every day. Give us your view or a view of what the situation is now.
Uh, I think Pakistan as a country has to reconsider its priorities. For the last 65 years, we have been a security state. And there are many reasons for that. We are in a volatile region. We have a large adversary at our eastern border, and we are not comfortable on the western border. So we have lived in a volatile region. So security has always been at the forefront of devising our priorities. But now we realize that a country cannot be strong if it's not strong internally. So what we feel at PTI, and our policy team is working on various options to address all the issues that you have rightly raised. So what we feel now, what we at PTI feel, is that we have to make country strong internally for it to be secure as a state. And to achieve that, we have to do reallocation of our resources. We have to allocate more resources to education. We have to allocate more resources to law and order, which means police, fire brigade, and all these other civil organizations. But at the same time, we have to keep our military strong also, because we're in a volatile region. So we have to reassess our priorities and allocate more resources to areas where we can be more strong internally, and that will ensure our security outward also.
Another major problem is load shedding. Our audience are not familiar with that term, so tell us what it is and why Pakistan has this problem.
In a country where corruption is rampant, where merit is not used to appoint people, just to give you an example, People's Party government appointed a 10th grade person, who had only 10th grade qualification, to run the major oil and gas corporation. You cannot expect a person who does not have the merit or the capability to run an organization to be effective. So we feel that all these problems that Pakistan is facing are mostly man-made. We don't have a lack of resources. We have lack in managing resources. We have issue of corruption. For instance, load shedding. We have coal reserves that can supply electrical energy to Pakistan for 300 years. 300 years. International community might raise the issue of environmental, but that can be addressed. It's not an impossible hurdle to cross. So we feel that in order to overcome all these problems, it is important that a credible leadership is in place that is able to exhibit by example, by leadership example, to guide the government functions in a proper way, so that let me give you an example. In Pakistan, they say 35% money is lost to corruption, and that was 10 years ago. Now they say the percentage is much higher. So if you have 35% of the national resources lost to corruption, why would somebody wonder that there is load shedding? So we feel that when we come to power, and if we are able to contain corruption, and if we are able to place capable people in various state functions, we will be able to achieve to overcome all these issues.
The load shedding, which is basically cutting off the electricity for several hours a day, there are different reasons. I just like to tell people, is there a shortage? What has caused it? Is the privatization part of the problem? Because a lot of institute in Pakistan has been, with the pressure from US and IMF, has been privatizing a lot of its state functioning things like steel mills and WAPDA and KESC. So is that part of the problem? Why there is a shortage of power generation?
Personally, I don't think privatization is an issue, and actually I think privatization is a good thing. State should not engage in the enterprise management. So privatization, in my view, is not the issue. The issue is when these private sector power generators provide you power, the distribution is done by a state enterprise where some say the line losses are 15%, theft is around 15-20%, and then you add up corruption of 15-20%. So actually 40-50% of the generation is lost to corruption, is not repaid to the system, so which creates circular debt. Now to finance circular debt, government has to either have revenues to finance it or print more money. When you print more money, which the current government is doing, you have high amount of inflation. So the issue is, all these issues that you are pointing out boils down to management of national resources. If there is better management, if there is efficient management, all these issues are manageable, and we feel that PTI is qualified to better manage the country and its resources.
Both law and order situation and load shedding have destroyed the business sector, and unemployment is very high, and I hear that businesses are, even some of them, not major flight, but some of the businesses are leaving the country. What would PTI do to revive the business activities?
I think that's a very important question. I think reviving the economy or creating more confidence in Pakistan's economy is one of the top agenda item for any government to manage Pakistan. So how do you increase investor confidence? One is that there should be peace in the region. If there is war happening in your border, it's 1500-mile long border, and if there is a war next door, it's very difficult to attract investors. And since you have a war in the neighborhood, there is a side effect of that war inside the country, which is terrorism, extremism, penetration of proliferation of weapons, in the communities, the rise of organized crime, and that creates social instability. So on one hand you have war, on the other hand you have social disability, on the third hand you have mismanagement of resources and corruption and lack of credibility in the government. When you sum up all these together, how can you convince an investor to come to your country? So what's the first step? And why our chairman Imran Khan says he will only need 100 days to fix all this? The first thing is that there should be peace in Afghanistan, and how do we bring peace is when we start negotiation between the stakeholders. Then you have to contain the corruption, which means that you allow capability and merit to prevail in government functionaries, and then you embark on marketing and softening the image of your country. So you tell your ambassadors that economy is the top of their agenda item, and they have to include economy or trade relations in all their meetings in the foreign countries, and then it starts showing effect in 8-10 years. It's not that PTI will come into power today and the country will change in 100 days. No, what we are saying is that we will put the country on course in 100 days, and the effect may show, or the tree may start bearing fruit in 6, 7, 8 years. But if we don't start the journey in the first 100 days, you can never have a garden bearing fruit.
So, well, what I hear you saying is that there won't be peace in Pakistan until there is peace in Afghanistan. So that is the starting point. So
I don't think it's possible. I think it's unrealistic to imagine that there is a major war going on in your neighborhood, and you will not have social and economic and other disorders in the neighboring country.
One more thing that Imran Khan has talked about is as a resource is the Pakistanis abroad. Tell us a little bit about that, because they do send money to Pakistan, which is a major source of income for Pakistan, but at the same time they can be a big source for creating businesses in Pakistan.
I think yes. I think PTI feels, Pakistan Tehreeke Insaf feels that, and actually PTI has two backbones. Usually people have one, but PTI has two backbones. One is youth inside Pakistan, and the other is overseas Pakistanis. Without the help and support of overseas Pakistanis, PTI would not have been where it is today. And the party acknowledges it, party appreciates it, and party is also telling people that we would need their support in the elections also, to be able to give nominations, tickets to middle class candidates. Because these middle class candidates will need financial support from overseas Pakistanis to contest elections. So we feel that if a credible government is in place, there are around 3.5 million Pakistanis abroad. And we feel that these 3.5 million Pakistanis can become ambassadors to promote the country and its image, as well as become introducers of investors to the country. And I am personally more interested to encourage Pakistani Americans and Pakistani Canadians and Pakistani British to start small enterprises in Pakistan, software houses, call centers, web design, mobile applications. There is so much they can do, and they have the experience, expertise, and the resources to do it. So what we are hoping is that they will become ambassadors to attract large investors, and they will engage in creating small enterprises themselves as well.
You are listening to a special broadcast, Pakistan Behind the Headlines, on 88.1 KFCF Free Speech Radio for Central California. My name is Dan Yaseen, and I have Abdul Quayyum Khan Kundi, a writer, businessman, and a political advisor in studio with me. Imran Khan, your chairman of PTI, has said that the American war on terror is not Pakistan's war. He is opposed to allowing NATO supplies to go through Pakistan, and he is opposed to US drone attacks. Let's start with war on terror. What is the position? What is your view, and what is PTI's position?
Yeah, there's one thing I want to clear up front, is that Imran Khan, our chairman of PTI, is not against strong relationship between US and Pakistan. Actually, he's a proponent of a strong, healthy relationship between US and Pakistan. What his point is that friends discuss with each other. They sit on a table and negotiate and create understanding of mutual interest. They don't dictate to each other what to do. So what he's trying to say, and he has said it in many interviews around the globe, is that we want a relationship with US which is based on values and mutual respect. So what we are saying is that let's sit on the table and discuss what are your interests in South Asia, how we can play a role where our interests are not damaged. And we have played that role in the 60 years. It's not the first time that Pakistan will be helping or working with US. Throughout 65 years, whether it was creation of CETO and CENTO, whether it was containment of communism, whether it was war on terrorism, whenever US needed Pakistan's support, Pakistan was there to help. Now, when US is facing an adversary in Afghanistan, blaming any problems in Afghanistan on Pakistan, I think, is not justified. And Pakistan has to consider its own interest, because we have suffered the heaviest loss from this war. So it should not be expected from Pakistan that we will just accept a situation just because we are in the neighborhood and our voice is not heard. So our chairman, our party is saying that our voice should be heard, our sacrifices should be recognized, and we should be compensated rightly for the efforts we have done in this war on terror.
NATO supplies were stopped by Pakistan after an attack on a border post by US NATO forces, which killed, I think, a couple of dozen Pakistani soldiers. Mm-hmm. Bring us up to date about what's going on with that.
Yeah, I think it has become a political issue, and I'm sorry that it has become a political issue, because if you look at that incident, and it has been reported in the media, it's not that I'm giving information that is not available in the US media, is that Salala incident that happened in November 2011 happened for 90 minutes in two 45-minute sessions. So it's not that it was a mistake happened in one session and it was a human error. It happened in two sessions on the same night with a gap of 30 minutes. So that raises a lot of questions. Now, here I want American people to understand one thing. When that incident was happening, Pakistan could have retaliated, or Pakistan army could have retaliated, but they didn't. They abstained. They did their best effort to get in contact with the NATO commanders in that area. What if Pakistan had retaliated? I mean, just imagine the consequences we would be facing today if Pakistan army had retaliated on that night. But it didn't. Why didn't they retaliate? If they wanted to break relations with US, they could have retaliated. So I think US people, US nation, US policymakers must consider this sympathetically and favorably, and I don't think they should make it a political issue. They should understand the sentiments of Pakistani nation and the loss of soldiers that we had. And this was not the first time, by the way. This was not the first time. There were other minor incidents that had happened before. So I feel that the apology that Pakistan is demanding is justified, and I don't think it should be made a political issue. Between friends, things happen, people apologize, and you move on.
Last Sunday here in Fresno, Peace Fresno did an oppose drone warfare protest. The opposition to drone is gaining momentum in the US and in the UN. Tell us about how Pakistanis feel about the drone attacks.
Okay, since I'm a Pakistani, my opinion will be biased. So let me tell you what others are saying, non-Pakistanis are saying, and what US nation should consider. Let me put you a scenario in front of you. Let's say a state, let's say California, authorizes police to kill 10 civilians to catch one murderer or apprehend one thief. They are allowed to kill 10 innocent citizens just to catch one murderer. If that action is justified, then I think I'm okay if you are continuing with the drone operations. But if that situation is not acceptable to the people of United States, then I think drones are also not justified. But again, I'm a Pakistani, so my view is biased. Let me tell you what international community is saying about drones. 63% of French disapprove of drone strikes. 59% of Germans disapprove of drone strikes, and this is reported by the Pew Research Center, which is a creditable US organization. And these are American allies, and these are the nations that are saying that they don't agree with the US drone strikes. Now, recently, United Nations Human Rights Commissioner Navi Pillai has said that drone strikes conducted by America raises a lot of ethical and legal questions. So don't listen to what Pakistan is saying. Don't listen to what Pakistan is saying. Listen to your own values. Listen to your allies, how they feel about the drone strikes. And I think this is something that will actually affect future relations of between states.
So your party's position is basically what you just said. What would, I mean, the question is, what would PTI do if US continues to keep on doing the drone strike, which Obama has said we will not stop? And how would you react? What would you do?
Yeah, this is a tough question for PTI, because we believe that drone strikes are a violation of Pakistan's sovereignty. We feel that if there is a indication of a terrorist presence in a part of Pakistan, then Pakistani government should work with the US government and apprehend those terrorists and those terror operators. So basically, we have to create an understanding between nations and create an environment of trust. What drones suggest to us and me personally is that there is no trust between the two nations, and that's a serious matter. Drones, uh, maybe we can come to an understanding where jointly we can operate drones to apprehend terrorists, but the situation right now indicates a mistrust between the two nations, and I think that is more dangerous than a single drone strike.
Well, the drones are not used to, I mean, apprehend anybody. Drones are just used to kill people without any hearing or anything, without due process. I mean, the people that are doing killing by drones, they are acting as judge, jury, and executioner. So the question of apprehension does not arise in my mind. Let's move on to US Pakistani relations again. I would describe US Pakistani relations as a marriage of convenience which has gone through few trial separation, but now it seems US is ready to divorce Pakistan. Maybe it is time for Pakistan to accept it as fait accompli. What do you think?
I think I see optimism in terms of US-Pakistan relations because I look at the history. In relations, in bilateral relations, up and downs happen. But if you look at the 63 years history of Pakistan-US relations, there has always been a great understanding between the two, and I'm hopeful that this understanding can be regained. The way I see it right now, that the US-Pakistan relations are not driven by diplomats on both sides. When the diplomats are allowed to form a relationship, I think it has more strength and it has more longevity. The other thing I would like to point out here is that the way I see it is that there has been governmental relations between US and Pakistan, but there is a lack of people to people contact. What we need between US Pakistan is increased cultural interaction. We want to have more social interaction. We want to have more economic interaction. We want more increased foreign direct investment from US. We want more American performers to go to Pakistan and perform. We want American performers, singers and musicians to come and perform here. For instance, I go to museums here and I see enclaves for all major nations, but there is no enclave for Pakistan. I think Pakistani American community should work on it, and they should create Pakistani enclaves so that American people are more familiar with the culture and ambitions of the Pakistani people. So the way I see it, if PTI comes to power, our focus will be to increase people to people interaction between US and Pakistan, and only then we can guarantee that there is a mutual trust and understanding between the two nations. So if somebody tells me that the relationship will break down, I don't agree with that. I mean, there is too much at stake. There are around 750,000 Pakistanis living in US. There are many American corporations operating in Pakistan. KFC is there, McDonald's is there, Pizza Hut is there, Coca-Cola is there, Pepsi is there. Actually, it's one of their large market. So there are elements. And recently, chairman of Google, Eric Schmidt, went to Pakistan, and he also expressed optimism in revival of the relationship. So I think that there'll be no breakdown. There may be stress in the relation, but I think eventually we will overcome it, and we will again, normalize the relation.
No, I guess what I meant to say is not the breakdown, but dependency that exists in Pakistan. So the question that arises here is, can Pakistan survive without US aid? Because Pakistan has been dependent, so that is the major question. If Pakistan can survive, then it can talk on the terms that you said, how Pakistan and US should have mutual understanding, mutual trust, mutual friendship. So that is the question. Can Pakistan survive without US economic aid?
I mean, I can tell you that aid actually helps America more than Pakistan, because one of the conditions of aid is that the supplier should be US. So basically, when you give aid to Pakistan, 80% of it goes back to the US corporations. So what we are saying is that and PTI is contemplating on this policy that we want trade. We want free trade agreement with the United States. We want more foreign direct investment from US corporation to Pakistan. We want increased flights between US and Pakistan so that more people can come and go. We want more tourists from America to go to Pakistan. By the way, Lahore is one of the oldest cities in the world and offers a lot of gems from history of South Asia that I'm sure American tourists will appreciate. Of course, we have to improve the law and order situation. So there are many areas where Pakistanis and Americans can work together. But aid, I don't think it's in the benefit of Pakistan to focus on aid. We want more trade.
So yeah, aid is not helping as much Pakistan, and the size of the economy in Pakistan, as you said, most of it comes back to the consultants and all of that, and then a lot of stuff. Even the military aid, most of it stays there because
Exactly.
we end up buying stuff from Pakistan. Kundi, I would like to thank you for being my guest on the show, and I know both you and I keep watching what's going on in Pakistan. You are more directly involved than I am. I'd like you to finish by taking a little bit of time to just Pakistan and US are both facing election. So the last question to you is the election that will be held in Pakistan in the next few months. What is your party doing? How can you assure our listener and the world you have a minute and a half to answer to make sure that there'll be a fair and free election?
I think now the chances of fair and free elections is high in Pakistan because we have a vibrant media. The other thing that I've noticed since I travel across Pakistan is that there is an emergence of regional media. Like when you go to a small town, like for instance Fresno, 500,000 people, there are 3, 4, 5 newspapers. They're independent. They are not. They report every corruption that happens in their area. So this emergence of vibrant media gives me a lot of hope. Then the involvement of youth. Youth with smartphones. There can be no better reporter than a youth with a smartphone, because they can take a picture, they can record conversation, and then they can share it with the party to lodge a complaint against any election fraud. So I'm hopeful and I'm confident that the next election in Pakistan will be fair and will allow emergence of leaders that have the real mandate of people.
You have been. Thank you, Kundi, for being my guest, and I guess we need to wrap it up.
Thank you for inviting me and speak to the